You're watching Lansdowne ROAR, the voice of the fans. Join me, Martin Prendergast and Conor McAvoy as we catch up with all the latest ongoings in Irish football, including an eventful day where Marc Canham finally leaves the FAI. Join us, the most interactive Irish football podcast out there. It's Lansdowne ROAR and it's live. Right, Conor, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm reading Mr. David Dunn, giving out that we are late, but he can do one as far as I'm concerned, Martin. I'm good. I've been drenched tonight. Anyone that lives in Ireland will know about this horrible weather. Training not tonight, absolutely disgusting. So no, it's good. It's always good. Actually, it's always a great feeling. You know, when you're absolutely drenched and full of muck, and then you get in the shower after. It's one of the best showers you can ever have in your life. But no, I'm good. I'm just reading here actually. Conor McGregor tweeting Iron Mike Chandler. It's time for unfinished business, or it's unfinished business. I said, "Oh, shut up! Don't be giving us any more."
Don't even mention that man's name on this podcast.
No.
Jesus, well, yeah.
No, we can talk about when he was in his prime. It was a good time, but now it's kind of it's a waste of space. But anyway, I'm good. How are you doing, Mr. Prendy?
Yeah, haven't been on for a while, so brilliant to be back. And as we've said, we're the most interactive Irish football podcast out there. We want to hear from you, the Raw faithful, this evening. You can see me. I'm already going for the job. I've got the official Castore top on here, and I'm going to be the chief officer. I'm going for the job, Conor. I think it's an eventful day in Irish football. The time has come for me to throw my hat in the ring, and we'll obviously be chatting about that. We want to hear from you, the Raw faithful. We want to also make sure that you are all following Rep Tracker on Twitter or X or wherever it is, and also our own handle there, LRAW_pod on X as well. And make sure you're not one of our illegal viewers. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to build that. It really does help us. And we do want to hear from you this evening because it's been an eventful day in football in Ireland again. There's always a bit of chaos, and obviously news broke this morning that Marc Canham is leaving the FAI, so we will be covering that in due course, and we'll also be catching up with OBIG, which is where we give a roundup of all the Irish lads and how they got on over the weekend. But yeah, it's been a bit of a while since I've been on, and Dave's panicking, and you know we said we were at 9:30 and we were on a little bit later, so apologies to all our Raw faithful for the late start, but we're here with all your comments within reason, of course, because you know, I do get a bit frustrated, Conor, with some of the nonsense and the kind of conversations that go on. So I'm going to be monitoring this chat tonight.
No, not cross Prendy.
I'm going in there straight away. I'm not going to give anyone any kind of stage here on if they're coming out with absolute nonsense. I don't mind being dug out. Of course, I can see there's already comments to me about O'Dowda and possibly relegating Cardiff. There is, yeah. Someone went early. There you go. Look, I'm going to give you a shout straight away to Alex, who's viewing on YouTube. Prendy's busy crying about O'Dowda being relegated. So that's the kind of crack we have on the show. So look, within reason, we're happy with all of your comments and interaction, but it has to be worthy interaction to be shown up on the screen, I think, or even given a mention. So I'm going to do my best to be a producer in the background here as well as presenter this evening. And it was an eventful weekend for Irish football and the players and how we got on. We've had a couple of lads. Well, we've had a promotion to the Premier League as well, which will Josh Cullen. That's Dave. I know he will be watching, and he will be livid that Josh Cullen is now a Premier League player again. Because he seemed to have ruled him out for a while. And but we'll be going through OBIG as well. That's where, as I said, we catch up with all the Irish lads, and Conor at Rep Tracker will be giving us all the opinions and views and every minute detail into how the lads got on. So I suppose there's only one way to start this evening. See your comments coming in. Please do keep them coming.
I think there's one very important thing. There's one very important thing to mention, Martin. You've said it. I've said it many a time.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the bloody channel, will you? Come on at this stage. Will you subscribe? I'm sick of it, Prendy. I'm sick of it. 41% of people who watch our streams or watch our videos do not subscribe. Click that subscribe button. As simple as just click it.
Very simple.
Prendy will be back to angry Prendy again. Dave will be going volatile. I'll just cry. But no, just subscribe and we'll all get on here. But
yeah, we do.
Proceed with your speaking, Mr. Prendergast.
Well, I haven't been on for a while, right? So I'm going to start off with this. This is a weird little bit I'm going to go on to now because I have been doing my own rep tracking here, as you know, and I follow and I am a coach at Enfield Town and youth level, and I've been following. Obviously, Enfield Town are a fan-owned club in northwest London, and North London actually. So we're there and in the National League South. So I do follow the first team as well, and we have a young lad from Ireland on loan with us at the moment, and this is him, Cian Dillon. He's an Ireland under 19 international. And
can you tell us which one it is for us, for fans who don't?
It's the one in the white top. One in the white top with the. I thought it was a fantastic photo, and
it is a great
in
photo.
the background there you can see that's Enfield Town. I mean, you have to see it to believe it. I mean, we go on about our League of Ireland and facilities and things. National League South is below the conference in England, fan-owned club, which they nearly went out of existence, 20 odd years ago. But the fans got behind. First fan-owned club in England, so a bit like AFC Wimbledon had to do. But Cian Dillon's on loan with us at the moment, and it goes to the final day. We need a point to stay up in the National League South, which with our budget, these lads are, they're semi-pro basically. They're not full-time professionals, but they're competing against the likes of Torquay, Worthing, Truro, some fantastic sides with great history there, and Boreham Wood, who actually gave them a hiding the other day, to be honest. We only need a point to stay up, and we failed the first chance the other day, but it all goes down to the last day. And this National League South, if you look at the league table, goes to the final day. It's the most exciting league, I would say, I think, in Europe at the moment. And the reason I'm saying that is, goes to the final day, any of the top six can still win the league. And then the relegation battle, which Enfield are sadly involved with, about 3 teams can go down still. So going to the final day. So it's amazingly exciting. And but we've got Cian Dillon, and that's what I've been saying to everyone there. He played really, really well the other day. Obviously, exceptional bias on my part that wanted him to do well. Ireland under 19 international, as I said, and he's on loan from QPR, and they provided some good players as well to Enfield Town this year. We've also got Steve Sidwell's son. He was at the game the other day. He was playing centre midfield as well. So there's some really talented players there. But I'm hoping, and I've predicted, Cian Dillon will score the goal to keep them up. And there you go. So I wish him all the best of luck, and obviously Enfield, my local team.
Has he been good? What's his play like? If anyone wants to know what type of player is, I know when you play that level, a striker can only do so much, but how's he coped with this physicality?
He will run the channels really well. I mean, obviously he's 19 and or 18, 19, and he was one man up front on his own the other day. But geez, he got smashed a few times. He actually got the penalty. He came in on the back end of a cross, attacking it at the back, and the lad came through him, got a penalty that injured him, but he still got up. I thought he was really resilient. Actually, he got up and real great strength. He's got a great physicality about him. He's smaller than Evan Ferguson, but he's quite stocky and solid. He looks a little bit like you, to be honest, Connor. So, but yeah, he was really, really good the other day, and obviously I want him to do well. So that's my extreme bias. But yeah, hoping he's going to do well and obviously following him with the under 19s as well. So firmly on the radar. And I know you've done a fantastic job recently with the League of Ireland show. That's going well, isn't it, Connor? You and Dave?
It is. I try to tell Dave for getting things wrong, as per usual, about his predictions, but don't worry, I put him in his place.
Yeah, and I hadn't actually been on since, again, many of you might know that I'm a chairman of Risk London, and James McManus scored the winning goal, didn't he, for Bowes the other night. You told me you've already done well. James is a season ticket holder with Risk London, goes to the Aviva, Lansdowne Road. Every home game sits near us. So, yeah, good lads. Brilliant to see him do so well. And obviously in November, his dad and mum was over in London with us for the England game. I had a good chat with him. I think you did as well, Connor, didn't you? Just finding out about how he was getting on. So, yeah, he could be the one that solves our midfield problems for Ireland in future. So, really good. Right, no place but this to start, really. And this is kind of the breaking news today that Marc Canham, the what was his role in the end? That he came in
as the director of football at DOF, and then he became the chief football officer, which is the CFO, which sounds more like a spaceship to me than it sounds like a role in football, to be honest with you. So
I've seen this. So obviously Marc Canham, as we said, why I was acting just a little bit there about because there was a lot of speculation, wasn't it? His name title did change. And there was a lot of speculation on that because he was they gave him the chief kind of role, just purely because they were worried about him kind of being lured back probably across the Irish Sea to England. Speculation that he was linked with other jobs. And the time has come now. I mean, he joined the FAI in June 2022, brought in to essentially do a number of tasks. He's created the new pathway that the FAI are introducing. And regular listeners to the show will obviously know that my fear whenever we've spoken about this pathway has always been, and even Marc Canham's job generally with the FAI was, he was a very prominent figure with it. And trusting one person to put that pathway in. Now, I know there's other coaches' input and things like that, but I always was worried that, trusting one person with that role who is doing a job in Irish football where he has come from a background as a Premier League chief. What was he there? Chief something there, wasn't he? Chief head of coaching in the Premier League. That, could someone come call him from a bigger job, bigger money, tracked him back kind of home in a sense? That was my worry, that we're investing a lot of time and trust, I suppose, into
a lot of money as well has been gone into that man as well.
Awful lot of money. I mean, look, years ago, I remember Packy Bonner when he was in this kind of head of coaching role in the FAI, or development officer. I think he might have been one of the chief ones of it. And we read all the plan then, the 10-year plan. And now we've got this new one. And I know he's been a very divisive figure in Irish football. Some big decisions have been kind of given kind of the credence that he was responsible for. And I'm talking about, Vera Powell, the kind of ending of her contract, where she actually said she felt that it was very unfair how she was kind of treated there. You can go about the Ireland women's team as well. Then Eileen Gleeson, she's still on the payroll at the FAI, and yet her contract was not renewed as the manager.
They're trying,
Colin Healy,
as he tends to say, we're in a process and we're not saying anything. We're not saying it, and we're in a process. Yeah. We're trying to find our role, but we're in a process. But expand.
Yeah, that's. And also then as well, obviously the Colin Healy situation, the fallout that Eileen Gleeson ending tenure as a senior women's team manager. And more prominently, of course, we've had the situation with Stephen Kenny's successor, where in 2024 we had a deadline had been set that the appointment would be made of his successor. Took nearly 2/3 of a year, I suppose, to get there. Missed the deadlines of February 2024. Also April, we heard from him as well. We were very frustrated as fans. We seem to be speaking about him every weekend on the show. So a lot of kind of fallout from this. And I think as well, the mysteriousness of this being announced today was excellently kind of summed up by John Fallon in the Examiner, that they have a football kind of meeting with all the FAI kind of people and stakeholders and staff at 9:30 this morning. And at 10 o'clock, he had an online remote board meeting with the FAI board, of course, and then offered his resignation at that. And at the 9:30 meeting, nothing had been mentioned to the staff or anything like that this was going to be happening. Now, I know there's due process, of course. He'll love that, hearing that, I'm sure. But at 11 a.m., that's when the FAI announced that he was leaving and stepping down from that role and basically going back to England is how we kind of read it. So an interesting day. Connor, what's your take on it, really?
Probably a bit of confusion. I'd say the main thing is I'm not surprised at this stage that I just think I'd say there must be another job lined up for him, because he's on such a hefty contract. I'd imagine that this type of money you wouldn't just give up for nothing, that he doesn't have a role lined up, or he's about to start another role. Or I'd say at this stage he doesn't really enjoy the role with the FAI, because there's no way a man with the pressure he's under all organizations in world football, the pressure on the head of FAI at the moment is probably one of the greatest, because you're constantly fighting the battle of trying to appease to the government of getting money, and then if you don't get the money that everyone thinks we should be getting, it's on your head. The whole managerial system, the whole managerial thing was a mess, which was all. It's at the end of the day, because Jonathan Hill's gone, it's all on him. You can't put it on David Carell, because he came in, 3/4 the way through the process, and as he said, the process was developing, and he set out these dates for Nations League draw, and it was half a year after the Nations League draw that he ended up appointing someone. And obviously, the Colin Healy situation like that just came out of nowhere for everyone. And then what he in his statement, he basically called out Canham, said it was all Canham's fault. So I just say he wasn't. I'd say there's no way you could enjoy your role when you've all that pressure on you. The pass-based thing, every single grassroots club across the country, well, I'd say 90% of grassroots clubs were completely against the calendar change to summer season. And it was just the backing behind them. Obviously, the FAI seemed to be very supportive, people within the FAI. The plans, like, his biggest legacy obviously is going to be this managerial thing. But if the pass-based thing, I don't think the pass-based thing will not be proceeded with. I think that's going to be proceeded with no matter what. But I think we'll look back in 10 years' time if the pass-based thing was a success or it was a development of Irish football, and we could praise him maybe in that sense for say he done a great job of bringing that through. But it's a very random one. No one would. I think it's like no one's. I don't think anyone's actually shocked that Cannon's gone. I think it's the timing of it that it's just randomly come on a what day is it? Tuesday. It was Tuesday morning on the 22nd of April with no football on. Nothing dramatic has happened unless something's going to come out in the next week or two that the FAI haven't got the funding that they've wanted off the government, and then he thought, "Fuck this! I can't do my job. I'm not getting the money that we should be getting to put through my ideas." It basically probably like a managerial system where a manager wants to do his thing at club level of buy-in players that he's got, but then the board, basically the board / government for us, is telling them, well, we don't have any money to spend, or we're not giving you money to spend. You have to work with what you've got. Maybe it's such a situation, but it's a tricky one. It's hard to decipher what's actually going on.
Yep. I mean, well put there, of course. And we want to hear from you, the Roar faithful. What's your view on this? Because a very divisive figure, as I said, in Irish football. And I think, I've seen a lot of coverage of it today, and people saying that he probably didn't understand the magnitude of the job. You've got to do so much. If he's responsible for like the senior management teams, the coaching pathway, you've got to understand so many things in Irish football. The schoolboys. You've got to understand, trying to change his calendar as well against kind of tradition, and also the GAA, the kind of power base with that is another challenge. I mean, I've even seen, local TDs I know from Kilkenny were talking about it, how this change will impact so much because of obviously the power of the GAA in kind of rural places like Kilkenny and things like that, where I'd be familiar a bit more with. But, I think, I mean, history will judge him, I think, with Heimer's appointment and how that goes. He is ultimately, though, or was a football person. And, coming from England as well, I think there was that little narrative of Jonathan Hill. It probably impacted him a little bit slightly as well, because people were disappointed with Jonathan Hill's lack of engagement with supporters clubs, with the fans understanding it, obviously not relocating to Ireland. And yet you then had Marc Canham coming in to kind of not massive fanfare, but, he was an experienced guy coming from the Premier League coaching role. Coming in there and then, expecting a lot of things to change in a sense, but it does come down to the financial situation the FAI are in. But I think he was definitely judged as well for the accent as well, and I don't think he ever really engaged enough. And where I make that point kind of more strongly would be, it was very frustrating at the time of the appointment of the successor of Stephen Kenny. We didn't know where John O'Shea was fitting in. There was a lot of frustration. Lee Carsley, you think back to all those chats we had on the show about that. But, we only heard from him then in that in-house interview with the FAI, where he was never accountable to the press or anything. And I think within that role, whether he liked it or not, he was a figurehead for the FAI. I know he wasn't the main man, but he was making a lot of massive decisions in the FAI that you needed to get the backing of the people and football people involved. And again, what saddens me probably today is that it just, if you're just picking up a newspaper and reading the back page, it won't make massive headlines in a sense, because he's not gone out on any scandal in a sense. But if you're picking it up and you're seeing, the chief football officer has gone from the FAI, you're thinking, they still don't know what they're doing. Like, they're still not organising themselves. And why would the government give them any money at all? And because they probably don't have any faith in the association at the moment. And that's I think the thing. Like, we can read the statements from the FAI, and we can read, it's always going to be on good terms as well. Like, for example, FAI President Paul Cook said, "Well, we're sad to see Marc leave. We fully respect his decision. Sincerely thank him for his dedication and hard work throughout his time with us." Saying as well, his leadership and hard work and driving forward the Football Pathways plan has set a strong foundation for the future of Irish football, which we all now need to deliver upon. That is probably the challenge now for whoever replaces him. And he is coming, he's going to stay on, isn't he, until the appointment happens. I mean, the people who clear up with this government money that goes into the FAI, or these job consultants, basically, because they're always appointing recruitment agencies to find the best people for it. My personal view on that is now, I think it has to be, there are people in Irish football who are qualified, who know, you have to know Irish football and the politics of it, basically. And it has to be an Irish appointment, because that's the situation we're in as an association. It has to be
people would say,
who understands it.
People would say, "Oh yeah, whatever, like you're anti-English or anti this or that because of it." But it's just a simple reality. If you don't understand Irish football and culture the way it is with GA in this country, like I'd imagine, Martin, when you're in England or whenever I was in uni in Liverpool, people it wouldn't come to their senses or they couldn't understand that football will always be the second fiddle sport in this country. No matter how much money's put into it, it still is not considered, it'll never be the national sport. Whether people like it or not, it's not going to be number one, especially to the government and the people high up in the country. But he just didn't, I don't think he helped himself with that. And then obviously you had little things, even if it's coming there, like the Brexit funding. If you remember, there was a Brexit payout funding, which the FAI just didn't apply for. And when the reality is, or not, whether it was his fault or it was John Hill's fault, it was someone else, at the end of the day, it's all coming back on Marc Canham's head, and it's going to come onto his head no matter what. Because even if he says, well, it was this person's fault, and he puts the blame on someone else, people will still say, well, you're the head of the association, you should know about this, you should be pushing this on people. Like, I'd imagine when he came into this role, Martin, he did not expect to have all this in terms of even the sort of the managerial thing, the whole thing. I'd say he came in with the thought of, I'm creating this football pathways plan for this country, and that's my main focus for the next 5-10 years, is pushing this through, not spending was it almost 2 years working on putting through bringing in new manager. Like we knew 3 months before Stephen Kenny was gone that he was going, and people were thinking, yeah, surely they'd be working on the background who they can get in. Obviously, you never know who's gone or who's getting the job until it actually Kenny had gone, but then it just dragged on and dragged on. Even the women's job kind of went a bit funny, and I think the worry now is, who do you bring in? I think hopefully people put in the comments who they actually want to get the job. I think maybe we could bring John Delaney back in. Everyone deserves a second chance. But no, it's I don't know. It's like, because I don't know, Martin, if you have any ideas, but I'd say probably when we get to the comments, we'll speak more about who we'd bring in. But
yeah, I mean, look, I think it's, there's been a lot of speculation, seeing obviously articles being written and people chatting about stuff on Twitter and social media, of course. But I think it does have to be an Irish person, and let's not forget as well. I think it's a key challenge this now for David Carell and the leadership of the FAI, president there, Paul Cook, as well, and the board as well, because there has been a bit of flack against the FAI. Like you're hearing things. Richard Sadlier was talking on TV. Oh, I've heard this and I'm not happy, and I can't talk about it now. And we have got some ex-players, whether we like it or not. We had it under Stephen Kenny as well. Everyone's going to have an opinion on Irish football. Brilliant. We've got 1,000 people watching our show here this evening, so thank you for your support. But everyone's watching it because it's interesting in Irish football, and everyone will have opinions. But I think as well, a lot of pressure that Marc Canham was under was, being seen again with that Jonathan Hill kind of link of English and kind of a blow-in a way of doesn't really get the league. James McLean was very scathing, wasn't he? And saying, like, what should we, we should, that you only see them at the games in the lead up to an international week and stuff. Are they really invested in it? Is it still the problem child, as John Delaney used to call it? So, that's the kind of challenge. I think it's who, even if it's an Irish person gets the job, you're still going to have, he will have pissed people off, won't he? We don't want,
sorry, I don't want to call anyone out, but we don't want Packy Bonner coming in and getting the job after saying in an interview before that he said, was it Dermot Desmond owns Celtic?
Oh yeah,
that we should get his feeder club in Ireland. Like, you cannot have someone that has that sort of mindset. It's all about England or going to. Obviously, at the end of the day, reality is I'm the biggest League of Ireland fan to the next person, but every Irish player wants to go eventually play in England. But the reality is the number one priority anyone coming into a role in Ireland is League of Ireland, League of Ireland, League of Ireland. No matter what you think, it's grassroots football's League of Ireland, but then obviously because the League of Ireland is the product of grassroots footballers coming through and who've developed it at that sort of age, because I would argue with anyone that some of the clubs in Ireland are some of the best grassroots clubs in world football. The level of talent you see in some of these clubs, that even when you look back at now, you look at teams from 10 years ago at like maybe under 12s or under 13s, and they show the fellas playing now, and it shows how much talent there is. But then when it gets to the older age, when they're in the League of Ireland clubs and academies, that's when the separation starts to come into, because of coaching and the contact hours. So it all investment really has to go into League of Ireland. How that, yes, we want lads playing at the highest level possible, but not someone coming in whose worry is how can we make money as an association by selling lads abroad. But it's just we just can't have someone coming in whose main focus isn't the League of Ireland, and someone that is a bystander to League of Ireland football, or has no interest in, or could only name 2 players in the league, or has no links with the academies, has no anything. But like one that's come to my head today, Martin, that I put on Twitter, was the Shamrock Rovers CEO who's leaving in the summer, John Martin, who's been at the club was at the club for a couple of years. Obviously, they've sold a lot of players for big money recently. They had the historic run in Europe, getting to a knockout stage, first ever Irish club to do so, winning even the first Irish club to win a group stage match in European history. And he's leaving in the summer. Rovers wanted him to stay, but he decided himself he wanted to move on, which is not, I don't know what his thinking behind moving on. Maybe he is lined up, but if they wanted him to stay, they want him to be there for the development of that club. But why? Maybe he could be in consideration. Why not? Is he not considered to come in? Because clearly he's done a good job at Rovers. CEO obviously is slightly different to chief football officer, whatever they want to call it these days. But someone like that, or you see the name, you see, who was I seeing earlier? Ger O'Brien at Pats, who was who's done a good job with them. But like maybe like who you just don't know what this sort of role. Like you don't want some, I don't know, would you want someone like Rude Doctor coming back in to get involved with Irish football again? But
see, I think the thing with Marc Canham, I thought like youth kind of was on his side a little bit. You know, I didn't think it was kind of I didn't think he was going to stay forever, but I didn't think, you know, I didn't think he'd go so suddenly in a sense. And I think whereas some of the other you know, Kubermans and Rude Doctor, I thought that was like a bit of a kind of retirement kind of job. Like, oh, this is easy. I'll go on the payroll, the FAI kind of thing. I mean, Aidan Fitzmaurice from the Independents kind of put a little bit of a list together. So he said Shane Robinson, you know, he's been involved in Shamrock Rovers Academy director.
He's with the FAI at the moment. He left Shamrock Rovers there recently.
So yeah, he would have worked with it, understand probably the pathway. I mean, this is the thing, that they're gonna have a bit of continuity. That's one thing. Niall O'Regan there as well was a really respected coach. He's very involved in the coaching setup at the FAI. So he's been linked. Stephen Bradley. Not sure about that one. Pat Fenlon
Stephen
as well.
Bradley.
Yes.
Oh, I don't think
Stephen
that
Bradley.
would be. I don't think he'd leave Shamrock Rovers managerial role for that now.
Well, you know, he was calling. Was he not calling Canham out a little bit and stuff? I mean,
but there's a difference. There's difference in.
Well, no, but my point on that is that, you know, this is the thing again. That was the problem I had with, you know,
James McLean was calling Canham out.
Yeah, but we're crying out for money, and I've always been, you know, call out things when they're not right. We often do on here, but you know, then don't then complain when sponsors don't want to be involved, because they're seeing your name calling something out and making it negative. So when they see James McLean moaning about the FAI, sponsors aren't going to be involved in that, because they're just going with, well, if he's calling them out, he must be right. He knows football. We've also got Pat Fenlon. I think he went for the job at the time before when Canham went for it, and also Brian Barry Murphy, who was obviously at Leicester at the moment.
He would be brilliant. He would probably be the ideal sort of. I know he's a coach. So different coaches. I'd imagine someone like Brian Barry Murphy, his ideal thing would probably be managing Ireland, not as the director of football of Irish football, or having a heavily imagine a top club.
If you do have ambitions to manage Ireland, it wouldn't be the worst thing that you put your hat in the ring for that, and then all of a sudden,
you appoint yourself.
I'll take that job.
You appoint yourself.
I'll take that job as an interim because we'd love an interim. So, look, we want to hear your views as well. I think quite on the comments about this, but
I think
we want to hear from
there could be something in that John Martin thing because of the connection with Sheehan Robinson, who's already there, and Aidan Price has recently joined as the head of talent ID, which basically is just the head of scouting players and stuff like that. Which is actually a very important thing he's come on because Tom Moan, the under 19 manager, was basically head of scouting whilst trying to be the under 19 manager at the same time, and it was just typical in Irish football, someone having to do way too much work and not being able to keep up with it because you need a set person head of scouting or head of talent ID, as they want to call it for fanciness. But I think the Rovers connection could play into something. Maybe Stephen Bradley could get it from there, but I would be absolutely shocked if Stephen Bradley left his role as manager of Shamrock Rovers to be the chief football officer of the FAI. But we put in the comments who you want to be it. There's rumours going around about David Dunn getting linked to it. Why not give it to Rep Tracker? I suppose the Irish Football Blog applied for it, but they closed the door in his face. No, it's a funny old situation. There's never a dull day in Irish football, but sure, it's why we love it, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, look, it's an interesting one. We do want to hear your comments. A bit more interaction on this would be appreciated because we want to see, who do you want? What's the legacy of Marc Canham going to be? Is it showing a lack of leadership at the FAI still? There's, like I said, I do have a bit of sympathy for David Carell and some of the people in the FAI who do a good job or have come into the job recently and kind of, things are on the up a little bit with the football side of things, especially underage. Some players coming through. We're going to come on to Obig now and just focus on some of those players and see how they've gotten over the weekend.
Rumors as well. Transfer
rumors. But so before we come on to Obig, this was a story that we've seen. We're going to give credit here to Graham Bailey, and this is where TBR Football understands that Arsenal are looking closely at Brentford defender Nathan Collins. So that is an interesting one because, that is a massive step up. I mean, that's Champions League football next season. Again.
With the best defense, but it's already to the best defense in probably European football. I know Inter Milan, like clubs like Inter Milan have brilliant defenders, but probably in terms of that.
But there he is, little mock up there for that from 365 scores. But I mean, I would have no problem seeing it. I mean, look, we're Man United fans. I mean, this is a problem position for us as well. I mean, we probably can't attract him, to be honest. But that'd be a great move, I think. And I think I'm a firm believer if you're playing with better players, which they would be, he would be at Arsenal.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be.
Brentford. If it was at Arsenal? If we went to Arsenal, I'm saying.
Yeah, we're not going to be starting. There's different playing with them and training with them, but I don't think unless Saliba was going or something. But the way modern football is, you kind of play with a left-footed left centre back and a right-footed. So Saliba is probably top 2-3 defenders in world football. Unless he was going, which I don't think he's ever going to leave. The thing is, Nathan Collins is that good that he can't go to a club to be a backup option. He's well above that level. But he could do one of them things, Martin, that they're just monitoring them because if it never happens to defenders or they want to sell one goes to the dogs, that they bring him in because even the sign Calafiori in the summer after the Euros, after the good Euros, or Timber was brought in as a centre half. Ben White was a centre half when they bought him, unless they wanted them to be a right back, right back where you play a full back at left or right back, like what probably Man City have done with Guardiola, gone from being he's probably about 6'2", 6'3", or maybe more centre half playing left back, or Jake O'Brien 6'6", back. But the thing is, Timber's top class. I just think there's nothing in. I think there's nothing in it that will materialize. I wouldn't doubt for a second that they are monitoring him because thing is, these clubs will have a list of players in every single position who they would sign if they had to go out and get someone. But I would say centre half is in their 11 positions on the pitch would probably be at minimum 9th of importance for signing the player. But I wouldn't doubt that he's probably near the top or at the top of who they go for if they had to.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely like this is the interesting part of the season now, isn't it? Coming to the end of the season, and some players we're seeing are probably letting the hair down already, aren't they, Connor? Apparently, but you know, and it has been a long old season, and you know, it hasn't worked out for everyone in Irish football, of course.
Tell us,
we're in
Martin. What club would you send on the comments? Can tell us what club would you send? Would you like Nathan Collins to go to if he was going to leave?
Yeah.
Don't just say I'm asking you as well, Brandy, right now, but don't just say Man United because United aren't going to sign right centre half.
No.
Go on, tell me.
I'm trying to think. Like big enough. I mean, you know, I'm trying to think promoted teams. I mean, look, Darragh O'Shea probably made a mistake.
Did you just say promoted teams?
I'm saying, well, look, if they're going to have money coming in, like I'm trying to think. Even like I've seen a lot of comments actually coming through, just chatting about Ferguson. Great point actually. Would he be a good move? I'm going to give up already. Actually, Harrison Daglish, thanks for watching.
Good man, Harrison.
Would think with a permanent move to Leeds, lads. What would you think? Perhaps it wouldn't be the most glamorous move, although maybe he can have a season similar to Delap at Ipswich. I mean, Leeds are going to have to go again and bring better players in to stay
Bamford,
up. So.
They've got Bamford. He's too good to play for Ireland.
Yeah.
No,
but I mean, look, that's. I mean, look, Leeds are a big club, but you know they've got to get themselves organised so they don't go straight back down. But yeah, look, I think Brentford though, you know.
Also, it could be a shout though if Nathan Collins leaves Brentford in the summer, replaced with Darragh O'Shea. I didn't actually realise that Darragh O'Shea left for Ipswich because they offered more money than Brentford. Because remember, it was reported the Brentford deal was done, and then it came that Ipswich, I think, but Burnley only accepted the Ipswich deal because they offered more money for O'Shea, and he would have went to Brentford if it wasn't for that, which would have been way more ideal. Even though in fairness, I think O'Shea has had an excellent season for Ipswich. It would have been so much better off if he would went to Brentford. But you hope maybe if Collins goes, like he's the type of player that wouldn't take off this and they still have heavy interest in, because he's a very, very good player. But that's my rant about.
Is it, you know, a lot of these contracts as well though, you don't know, sometimes release clauses if teams come in who are, top.
It could be a sort of bonus thing, like there would be sort of bonus thing that Burnley had with Ipswich, that if you stay up, you have to pay us another 5 million or a couple of million, or as I tweeted last night, hopefully Burnley have a buyback clause for O'Shea after getting promoted. But I think the bridges are burned there, and there's not a great relationship there anymore with O'Shea and Burnley. Well, I don't know if it's a great relationship, but it's not a relationship that would come back. I think maybe if West Brom would have got promoted, which they've play up and unbottled it, but they've messed it up. If they'd got promoted, I think it would have been a real option for him to go back there, because that's a club he's adored at.
I did actually see something there with the fallout from that Burnley getting the result against Sheffield United. A lot of outrage, wasn't there? The pitch invasion afterwards. Sheffield United felt a bit threatened and intimidated, weren't protected by the stewards and things. So this is the kind of season now for pitch invasions and things like that. That's what happens when teams go up, and all exciting this end of the season.
Just
and obviously we will soon. But we'll soon have we'll have an Ireland squad to announce soon, and lads will be off on holiday, and we'll be seeing them.
Hopefully we have an extra few games to announce as well.
Yeah, it'd be good. But now with no chief football officer to arrange them, I don't know if that's going to happen at all now.
I think Heimer's behind that. By the way, Heimer's been at a lot of games. Heimer he was meant to go to Bowes Rovers on Monday. Who was he? He was at a game on Friday. I can't remember. Sorry, anyone could say on Good Friday. He was at a game. No, he was at a game on Saturday. Actually, he was at. No, sorry. Actually, someone can remind me if he was at a game on Friday. I can't remember, but he was at Drogheda against Pats yesterday, because he was meant to be going to Bowes Rovers first, but he had a flight delayed, so he must have been in England watching one of the lads on the day before, or he spent the weekend in England, or he maybe might have been in Iceland even. But and then he is in Derry tonight. He went to Derry against Sligo Rovers, so it's good to see him going. People would probably say about him not going to games. But it was good to see him going to more league. See him go to more, and he's going by himself, which is a big thing. That there was a lot big thing made of him. Oh, he only going with his FAI mates making him go, but he's been going by himself to these games, which is always good to see.
I think as well, having met him now a few times, I think he's definitely got it now. The Irish kind of understood kind of the Irish culture a little bit more, confident going to games and stuff. I think it did take him by surprise completely what it was all about and why people are interested in the Irish manager and wanting photos and chats with him and everything like that. So he's been very engaging. I think he has kind of got that. So yeah, it's great to see. Right, should we go on to Obig?
Yeah, go on ahead.
Right, so we do want your comments as well. If you want to point out any of the errors here, it's down to Connor and Dave. Nothing to do with me, but this is where we round up with all the Irish footballers over the weekend, or the last games they've played, obviously, and a busy weekend, obviously Easter weekend here for most of them in the UK. So, right, we're going to go on to the goalkeepers. So these are from the current squad. Quivin Kelleher, unused sub for Liverpool. Mark Travers, 90 minutes and 2-1 loss versus Sheffield Wednesday. And Gavin Bazunu is injured at the moment, Standard Liège. And Josh Keeley, 90 minutes and a 2-1 win versus Cambridge for Leyton Orient. And Max O'Leary, 90 minutes and a 2-1 loss versus Luton for Bristol City, who could have got up, couldn't they? They blew that really.
They're still in the
playoffs.
But yeah. We'll talk more about a rant too, because when we get to forwards by Bristol City. But anyway, Travers had supposedly made 9 saves for Middlesbrough the other day against Sheffield Wednesday. The game they lost, obviously the beat, because if anyone hasn't seen, myself and Dave did a video on Saturday evening for the lads that played on Good Friday, an big video, which was released on Sunday if you haven't seen. So if you're thinking, why haven't you mentioned his game against, say, for example, against Plymouth, but they won, that was mentioned on Sunday. But no, it's a bit of a mess for Middlesbrough at the moment. They win one game, they mess one up. They're 3 points off the playoffs with 2 games to play. Actually, and they play Coventry in the last game, who are the team above them. So it's going to be a fun race over these last 2 games in the playoffs for the championship. But yeah. And Bazunu said they played tonight.
Yeah, well, what's the crack with Bazunu then?
It was meant to be a knock. He got in training the day before, 2 weeks ago, I believe. And then he was meant to come back after, because he thought, knock, I'll be back for the next game, but he's still out. So don't know what the story is.
Right. Okay. Right, we're going to come on to the defenders. Right, Matt Doherty, 8 minutes in a 1-0 win versus Man United. Jake O'Brien, 90 minutes, a 2-0 loss versus Man City for Everton. And Nathan Collins, 90 minutes in a 4-2 win versus Brighton for Brentford. Darragh O'Shea, 90 minutes in a 4-0 loss versus Arsenal. James Abankwah, 25 minutes in a 1-0 loss versus Portsmouth for Watford. Jimmy Dunn, 90 minutes, 2-1 loss versus Swansea for QPR. And Robbie Brady, 90 minutes, 2-1 loss versus Hull for Preston North End. Callum O'Dowda, looking like it's going to be relegated, 90 minutes in a 1-1 draw with Oxford, his former club. Seamus Coleman, unused sub for Everton. Liam Scales, 90 minutes in a 5-0 win versus St Johnstone. And Shane Duffy got a goal in a 90-minute performance for 3-1 loss versus Millwall. Mark McGuinness, 90 minutes in a 2-1 win versus Bristol City for Luton. And Ryan Manning, 85 minutes, 1-1 draw versus West Ham for relegated Southampton. Andrew Bamadelli, 90 minutes, a 0-0 draw versus Monaco for Strasbourg. And John Egan, 90 minutes, 2-1 win versus Preston North End for Hull City. Erin Cashin, 1 lovely minute for the 4-2 loss versus Brentford. And Anselmo Garcia McNulty, no game for PEC Sport. Will Ferry, no game for Dundee United. And that wraps up the defenders. Anything of note there? Shane Duffy hanging on?
Yeah, but I don't think Norwich fans are too happy with someone. I don't think he's been great for them. I think the defense is a whole mess. Like, they should have been in a playoff race, and they're not in a playoff race. And they've lost the last 2 games, conceding 7 goals in the last 2 games, which is never a pretty sight. We spoke about, good to see Hull actually get a win, because a couple of Irish lads there. Sean McLaughlin playing left back had a great game at the weekend. John Egan's continued to be a rock at the back. I'm sure, have you seen the clip, Martin, I posted of John Egan getting the penalty given away on Good Friday game against Swansea.
Yeah,
one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. Thankfully, they made up for it against Preston the other day. They were 1-0 down, and then they scored 2 penalties to come back. So they're 2 points above the relegation zone with 2 to play. So hopefully, you'd hope maybe 4 points in the last 2 games will keep them up. But no, it's because Hull's always been a great club for Irish connection. So hopefully they stay up. And yeah, that's really it, really sad. Surprised to see Matt Doherty not start, but I guess at his age, he can't start every game, and he's literally been starting every single game.
All right, and also nice win for him, I suppose, Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Right, onto the midfield. So got Josh Cullen, 90 minutes in a 2-1 win versus Sheffield United as they got promoted. Jason Knight, 90 minutes for Bristol. Will Smallbone, unused sub for Southampton, cousin Will. Jack Taylor, 45 minutes in a 4-0 loss versus Arsenal for Ipswich. And Finn Azaz, 90 minutes and a standard goal, much to the happiness of Connor there. Mark Sykes, injured for Bristol City. Jason Malumbi, suspended at the moment for West Bromwich Albion. Andy Moore, an unused sub for Stoke City. And Jamie McGrath, 50 minutes in a 2-1 win versus Hearts. Alan Brown, 90 minutes in a 1-0 loss versus Blackburn. Luca Connell, 90 minutes in a 1-1 draw for Barnsley versus Peterborough. And Bosun Lowell, 30 minutes as a striker in the 6-0 loss versus Leeds. Connor Coventry, 90 minutes in a 4-0 win versus Wickham for Charlton. And John Joe Patrick Finn, unused sub for Stade Reims. And Milenik Ali, 90 minutes, 2-1 win versus Bristol City for Luton.
Yeah, quite a lot to decipher there. Probably the simplest one. Jack Taylor, I think that's the most minutes he's played in a Premier League game all season, coming on at halftime. So hopefully he might, if he came on after, I would have got battered, but hopefully he might start one of these last couple of games just to get a first Premier League start. Great to see Cullen coming back up, which people like he's not been great for them, but in the Championship he oozes. He looks so good playing in Championship. It's mad to see how well he plays. It's like a different player altogether. Maybe it's the pressure or the style of play with Ireland, but he's exceptional in the Championship. And the international football isn't that much better that he should be not playing at that level for Ireland. But Finn Azaz is probably single-handedly trying to keep Middlesbrough's playoffs, as I said, about 3 points off. But he got his goal the other day was class. It was top class. It was a lovely goal, and then obviously he scored against his old club Plymouth in the first game. It was a tap in, but 2 goals over the weekend won't do him any harm. And the thing is, if they're going to get playoffs over these next 2 games, he's going to have to either score and assist in probably both games to keep their hopes alive. And probably the standout midfielder moment was actually as well, Connor Coventry's worth a note. Really good season with Charlton, who looked like they're guaranteed playoffs at this stage. I think they still have a slight chance of getting automatics, but I think it's almost impossible, really. But I would say they have a very good manager, actually. Nathan Jones, if you remember when he was who was he? Who did he get? Was it Luton? He had the job for a while last year. No,
he was. I think so. Yeah.
Well, it was a mess, and then whatever way. But now when he's at his actual level, when he's at a club that's a good club in the league, like when you're at Luton in the Premier League, you don't have much of a chance, but they're doing really well. I think they're probably our favourites for the playoffs, heading into the playoffs. Actually, Josh Keeley's Leyton Orient look to be within a very good chance as well, which would be great to see. So it's a lot of Irish lads competing for the playoffs, but then I think Martin, the standard thing is Boston now all playing as a striker the other day. The most minutes he's played in the Championship as a player, 30 minutes, but I guess it's building on something. I've seen a lot of people were texting me with a bit of confusion. Why is he playing up front? I think it's more of a thing that they were losing 4 or 5 when he came on. And it was probably a thing of how can we get Boston minutes into his legs and not change up the midfield too much or not bring on another attacking-minded midfielder or whatever. So they probably thought it's probably easiest if we take him on for the striker and we let him chase after the ball for 30 minutes and hopefully get a few nice touches and get a few minutes in his legs. But I don't think striker will be. You could tell when he came on. I watched his cameo. He's not a striker. Like, it's just impossible. Playing a lad that has played his whole career as a centre midfielder and a centre half, playing as a striker is playing with your back to goal when you're so used to playing with your face in the play is just completely different. Like, but it's good to see him getting minutes again. I think he'll probably hopefully start. They play Friday night. So you'd hope that he'll start or get an opportunity to play at least another 30 minutes in legs. And if he starts one of these next 2 games, bring him in, Prendy, as I'd say. But he's what we need in the midfield. It's been a long time coming to see this. Hopefully getting minutes at Stoke, but I'm very hopeful.
And we hope he gets a good pre-season as well, or wherever he is, don't we? Because that's what he didn't have, did he? So
no, he did it. No, that's the problem. He did a pre-season at Celtic, and then he signed for Stoke. And remember, it was in the medical that he had to get about his back, and then he had to get surgery and stuff. So it was just a complete mess. But that's my rant on.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Finally, on to the attackers. So Troy Parrott, 60 minutes in the goal and a penalty shootout loss. Go ahead, Eagles. Evan Ferguson, 10 minutes and a 1-1 draw versus Southampton for West Ham. Adam Eder, 64 minutes in the goal and a 5-0 win versus St Johnstone for Celtic. And Sinclair Armstrong, 30 minutes, 2-1 loss versus Luton for Bristol City. Mikey Johnson, 63 mins in a 3-1 loss versus Derby. Rocco Vata, 60-minute performance in a 1-0 loss versus Portsmouth. Tom Cannon, 60 minutes in a 2-1 loss versus Burnley. And he scored a goal. Sammy Schmonik still unfortunately out injured. And Festi Abasele, 8 minutes in a 2-1 win versus Gaziantep. Casey McAteer out injured at the moment, Leicester City. And Chidozie Ogbene, another one on the injury list for Ireland at the moment. And Callum Robinson not in the squad for Cardiff City. And Michael Obafemi, an injured sub.
He wasn't in the squad.
And Aaron Connolly, 9 mins in a 3-1 win versus Norwich. Tyler Goodrum, 90 minutes and an assist in a 1-1 draw versus Cardiff at Oxford. And Adomo Imaku, 1 minute in a 3-1 win versus Norwich. So that wraps up the strikers.
Yeah, Casey McAteer, disappointing to see him injured because he played, I think it was 89 minutes he played against Brighton, but I didn't realise until I checked after that he came off in the 89th minute with an injury or a knock. So it was a pity because he actually done well in that game. Another striker, good to see Tom Cannon, his first goal, Sheffield United, finally got it, but it was actually a nice finish in fairness. Smashed it past Trafford, who's so overrated in my opinion. Anyway, a goalkeeper getting nominated for Player of the Season when he just has the best defense in front of him, keeping a million clean sheets. Obviously, he's the decent keeper, but being nominated for Player of the Season is a joke as a goalkeeper. Good to see Ida scoring that win over St Johnstone. Sad for Sam Curtis and Graham Carey on that side getting battered, but good to see Ida scoring. Good, his confidence good. He did the apology anyway to the Celtic fans, it seems, for the video, and obviously Scales, good to see. Actually, we didn't mention Scales playing 90 minutes, which is good to see. Seems to be back in again over Trusty, which is important. Sad for Troy Parrott, bit of drama, missing the penalty. Then the keeper was off his line, so we got the retake. But it shows how much bottle he has, that he steps up again and he slots it past the keeper, and then he comes off a couple of minutes later with an injury, which is a problem. And you probably would say AZ would have won that match if it wasn't for Troy Parrott getting injured, because he's such a big loss. Then everything comes through him. And then the big round I want to go on about is the Bristol City game. Sinclair Armstrong with 15 minutes to go was slipped through in goal, got his body in front of the defender, Ted Mengi, if you remember, had a good season, used to be United, had a good year for Luton last year, got his body in front of him, as you do when to open up your body, went to go open up his body to place it past the keeper. Ted Mengi cleans him out of it from the back. I'll post it on something, Martin, when I find the clip, but he completely cleaned him out of from the back, and everyone was going, oh, that's a penalty. The keeper runs up, they'll keep the ref would run towards ready to point the spot, just ran towards and turned around. No one could believe it. And the thing was, that was a penalty and a red card for denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. With 15 minutes to go with Bristol City, they were 3-1 down at that stage, but if it would have been 10 men, 3-2, 15 minutes, with all the momentum on your side, I'd highly doubt that Luton would have held on anyway you could say anyway, it would have been probably a draw, which would have been vital for Bristol City. Hopefully that's not what cost Bristol City playoffs, but I still think they'll probably should hopefully get into the playoffs. But I think that shows Sinclair is probably looking for a goal, because he would have scored that chance, or he would have won the penalty for Bristol City to get back into that game. But it's disappointing when you see things like that happen. But it was good to see a lot of Irish players actually on the pitch, especially McGuinness is doing so well for Luton at the moment, and Milanik Ali is doing very well as well with the goal at the weekend, and McGuinness getting man of match against Derby. Hopefully Luton stay up as well. You'd hope, especially with Luton spending 10 million on McGuinness last summer, if they went down, that is some loss of money, like with the level they're playing at. But yeah, that's my rant over.
No, it's great to see them all playing, like you said, and that's important, obviously, as we come up to, an Ireland squad being announced for these 2 June games, which we'll obviously be covering. We'll be off to Luxembourg and covering a home game as well. So looking forward to those games in June. Do keep your comments coming in. We do want to hear from you, the Raw faithful, and make sure, most important thing of all, is make sure you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, please.
Say that with a bit more passion.
Subscribe, you fuckers. Is that all right?
That's better.
Right, there you go. Right, thanks for nearly 1,500 watching this evening. So do click the link as well and share it on your WhatsApp group, friends, chats, all that kind of thing. Post it on Facebook as well, that this is the most interactive Irish football podcast out there. We want to hear from you. We carry out weekly shows, of course, and as I said, we will be attending the games throughout the rest of the year, watching Ireland, and got some exciting things coming up as well, more things planned. We're going to be at an exciting launch, actually, a collaboration between Puma and Jemison. I'm going to be down on Friday this week in London. Been invited down by our friends at Jemison, who kindly sponsored our Lansdowne.
Will you get us a bottle?
Event.
I want one of them.
I'm going to try and get the bottle. I will try and get the bottle.
You'd get more than one bottle, I tell you that. You tell them for thanks for Rep Tracker promoting us. So get me a Jemison Puma bottle, or I'll be having word with them.
I think it's Clint Morrison, Ian Hart, and Shay Given are going to be down on that. So it'd be good to catch up with them, get their views on Irish football as well. So especially after I'm sure Ian Hart will have a few things to say about Irish football and everything. So we had a good crack with him in November, and do make sure that you catch up with our. I think it's on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
the Lansdowne Legends we did with Alan Kelly, Clint Morrison, and Ian Hart back in November around the England time game in Wembley. So great fun that was. And also chatting about Saipan. There was about 10 minutes there of Roy Keane chat where we didn't say a word, and it was all about the truth about what happened over there. I was listening to an Irish football podcast today. It was Irish football, and it was chatting about what Roy Keane as a manager. And this is for you, Dave, when you're listening, because I love Roy Keane and always like to mention Roy on the show. But an interesting story about Roy was, which is really poor. When they got promoted, Sunderland, he would not have an open top bus for Sunderland players to celebrate their promotion. That's outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not like they're Man United getting relegated or bloody fucking.
No, but yeah, exactly. Well, that is outrageous, isn't it? That like some of them lads. I think it was Ross Wallace on Under the Cosh, but saying just how he was, Roy, and he's a big fan of water parks. Apparently, that was what I learned today about Roy Keane.
Is it actually true, or is the thing is it a sarcastic fan?
No, he is a fan of water parks. He made the Sunderland team go to a water park and was up and down the slides all day. And
they're good crack, the water parks.
Then he said to the team, right, we all need to get kicked out of here now. And he made them all go on something together so that the whistles all blew at the end, and then they kicked them out.
Team ball, not a bad way of team. It's actually a smart way of team ball.
Yeah, that was what it's about. Yeah, so very interesting. Right, we're going to come on to your comments, which is a good part of the show. But as I said, you need to earn them. So if you want to be getting a shout out or anything on this, or giving some good insight, we're only going to read the very best of these. So I'm not going to apologize for anyone we miss. But I want to make one point on something. And obviously we chat about Evan Ferguson, and I know there'll be lots of comments tonight from nearly 1,500 of you watching this evening. But I read this the other day, and we're big fans of Evan Ferguson, and we know this move hasn't obviously worked out. And I've seen Fulkrug given out the other day, and it's all gone a bit wrong there at West Ham, as we know. But this is, I thought, a good message I'd read on, and I know it's different times, okay, with this. Like Evan Ferguson obviously is playing in 2025, and players do play a bit younger now. But at 19 years old, Rio Ferdinand was on loan to Bournemouth. At 19, Nemanja Vidic was playing for Red Star Belgrade. And at 19, Jaap Stam was playing for FC Zwolle. At 19, Lenny Yoro was playing for Man United. So that and they're saying that's a bit of an exception for like the obviously talking about Man United there, but I was thinking about this in the context of even like Troy Parrott and Robbie, in a sense. Robbie Keane, striker for Ireland, came through at 17. Brilliant, obviously, under Brian Kerr in underage tournaments and things, but a very early developer. Learned an awful lot out in Italy as well with that move. But I think we have to be very patient with Evan Ferguson. His move hasn't worked out, but I think we do have to remember that he is a growing lad. He's had a lot of pressure put on him very, very early, and I still believe that there's a player there. I just hope he gets the right move.
Believe there is. The fact is, Martin, I'm going to say it now and I'll say it again. He's going to be one of the best strikers in the world. Simple as. He's as talented as anyone. People throw out names like Delap. Stop, will you? With Delap being better than Ferguson. Delap is just Delap is a good player, but he's just a head down, knock it and go, and he strikes the ball hard and well. But Ferguson just has everything to be a top player, and he's going to be a top player, I have no doubt, because he has his head right. He has the right people around him to get the right things going from. Obviously, the West Ham thing didn't go, but I think it was just unfulfilled promises. And that this summer, like as I've made the claim to you, Martin, that not to you, was to Dave actually the other day, that I think he'll go into Brighton for pre-season, because I don't think he'll be gone unknown by then, and he'll tear it up in pre-season, and Hurstler will have no option but to play Brighton or Ferguson in the first team at the start of the season, and that he'll end up being the number 9 for them next year. Because I just think it's just mental, people, the way people talk. Like they talk about, like people talk about Robbie Keane being an early developer and they try to compare that way, but I think it was a lot easier to be an early developer back then, just for the whole physical aspect, because every footballer now is an unbelievable athlete, and like they're so well physically made, and that's because of years of getting the right nutrition, years of the right gym work, strength and conditioning work, and no matter who you're coming up against, it's a given. You have to be an elite athlete to play at the top level. And like, as good as players were back when Robbie came through, there was still a few that you would still be like, they're not elite athletes, or they're not top athletes. Like they wouldn't, simple as, they wouldn't be playing at the top level as what they are now. But no, I just think some stuff is mental. But I hate going on about Ferguson, but I think the point has to be made that he's going to be the best striker in the world.
Yeah, a bit of patience and a good summer, and give him a bit of love with Ireland, get a few goals again, and I think we'll see him developing then as well. And Welbeck at Brighton's going to be another year older and stuff. Was trying to get out at Brighton as well, linked to Man United at one stage, I think. So we do love your interaction. Make sure you do a comment this evening. If we've been chatting a lot about Marc Canham leaving the FAI. Who would you like to see replace him? Who would you like to see of Ireland players moving, and which clubs you'd like to see him go to?
Would you take Rep Tracker as the chief football officer as the FAI, so I can pass this on to the FAI? Would you take it?
That's it. Yeah. Look, the Irish Times isn't good enough for you, is it? No. Already throwing yourself around Dublin. Right. And we do like abusing each other here as well, but I'm very grateful.
Where's Davy Goggles? That's the question. Where is Davy Goggles?
And this is one that I've been getting this on our own WhatsApp group, of course, that given me a bit of stick about Callum O'Dowd as captain of Cardiff, possibly bringing them down. Which is not
I think
good.
It's worth saying though. It could be a good question for the fans, because a lot of people in the fans' comments either don't like O'Dowd or like winding you up about O'Dowd. But if Cardiff get relegated, will he get a move in the summer? Because I think, as much as I don't think O'Dowd is any special footballer or going to be, I think he's more than good enough to be a championship footballer and play at left back or left wing in the championship with a club. But he did sign a contract at the start of this year. You'd hope there might be a sell on or a breakout clause or something, but at that level there mightn't be a buyout clause. And especially when he's somewhat, I know Aaron Ramsey is the club captain, but Aaron Ramsey's been injured half time, and now he's the player manager, but I don't think he can play. So it would be interesting to see if he can get a move out.
Yep. Yeah. It'll be one that we'll have to follow, of course. And here we go from Finn Thorpe. For the summer, I'd love to see a top 3 or 5 of each position and the players we would see play there in the World Cup qualifiers.
Is this a video he wants to do?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Is this a video, Finn? If you want to, I think it's just you want to do a video on us say the top 3 of each position, 5 of each position. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, we can do it.
If you have any ideas of videos you'd like us to do that you think would do well, or you'd think that would be worth putting out information, make sure you either send it in the DM or put a comment there.
Yep.
That's a funny. Don't read that one above. That's a funny one.
Which one? That one?
Yeah, read it.
Marc Canham on his way out. Lansdowne ROAR live at 21:53. I didn't notice that. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, there you go. That's all right. Yeah, Kevin, just chill. Just chill.
Don't worry, it's Dave.
That's a good one. I'll let you know.
Dave's button these times.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Right. And Jeff Kane, great to see Canham gone. 3 years and nothing show for it. Maybe get someone who knows Irish football next who is based in the country. You can't really, and I'm just going to go on to your next comment because you split up. You can't really if you're not based here, which
it must be. I don't know what Jeff means. If it's before you have the job or whilst you do the job, because the thing is, Canham is living in Ireland, but I don't know if you mean whilst you're doing the job or whilst you're, because I think it is important. If you're coming into the job, you have to be based here, or before you come in, or you're an ex-footballer that's lived here for your whole till you were 16 or something. But I think Canham, in fairness, has lived in Ireland the whole time he's been here. It wasn't a Jonathan Hill situation where he was living in London.
But I mean, I have had a conversation with Marc Canham, and he was very pleasant and everything, and we were chatting about some of the change. Very, very brief, to be honest. It was in the wake of the win in Finland, yeah, and just very, very brief conversation. But I just never got the vibe, in a sense, and from speaking to other fans as well, that they really kind of trusted that how engaged he was with it. And I think there was this little bit of John Bull kind of thing of English. This English guy is telling us how to run our own football, and probably. I can see in time that will be that it may be well acceptable, I think, for Irish football to have. Well, we were chatting in our WhatsApp group again, like what the impact Jack Charlton made back in obviously the 80s when coming in to take on the senior manager's role. Different time, of course, though. But I think we do need to have an Irish person in there now, because I think it was a little bit like that, and I think that was obviously, as I said earlier, about on the back of the Jonathan Hill thing. It didn't ever really felt as if people trusted Marc Canham, to be honest. But I'm hoping the pathway will work if they do kind of incorporate it and get the backing for it. But, we just want best for Irish football, and it's going to be very, very difficult. Sorry, this is in response to Kevin's 21:53. We've got Mofo saying exactly, Kevin. So thanks for that. Thanks for your support and watching, lads. We've got from Dave 52. Connor, in your opinion, was it the likely good that Jack Morehouse will play for the Irish first team? 50% or 60%?
And if it's meant in the context that he could, in terms of switching to England, or whether he's good enough or not, I would probably say 50 or 60. I'd say 60%, 65% likely to play for Ireland, because then honestly, I don't know what his loyalty is to Ireland, to be honest. I don't want to say it, because I don't know how loyal he is to Ireland, or how proud he is of his family heritage or whatever. But whether he's good enough or not, I don't know either in the long run or not, because the reality is he's playing academy football, very highly rated academy football, making the bench for United, but he's yet to make his debut. I do think if he makes his debut and starts a couple of games between now and the end of the season, which I think he will definitely start at least one game, and does all right, I think we should be very tempted to bring him in, remove the doubt. Did you skip a comment by there from Finn Thorpe? Also about strikers?
Oh, no, I did, Jeff. Sorry. I did.
It's up there.
Apologies.
Or Finn. Don't let fans be left.
Sorry,
out,
Finn. Also, we have so many young strikers, and I don't know much about them. What type of strikers are Noonan, Melia, O'Mahony, and Cannon?
Noonan's more of a raw, brilliant finisher. We've seen with his goal yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it yesterday, Prendy. Because it would have been on at the same time as you were going to Enfield. He was a brilliant goal. Very good going in behind. Good hold up play. Still bits to work on, but he's still very young. Melia is just a joy. I think he just has everything. His hold up play, his link up play, his ability to spin defenders, his football IQ at his age is something I've never seen in Ireland. And like even his ability to win free kicks, of backing in defenders and know when to drop to win a free kick. O'Mahony's more of I would say probably a penalty box striker who's a superb finisher, brilliant in the air. He's developed a lot in terms of his link up play and stuff. And then Cannon is, as I've said, Martin, unbelievable finisher. Movement is brilliant, but he has a lot to work on in terms of hold up play and link up play, which you hope will come because he's still very young. But I think for people who think, oh yeah, he should be starting for Ireland, he's a bit off that yet. I don't know who else you
All
want
right.
me to mention, really. Maybe Sinclair Armstrong, but I think everyone knows he's just a freak of nature.
Yeah, just needs to see a few more goals from there, don't we? That's the thing.
Yeah.
He just needs to get the finishing right. And here's from Kieran Kelly. Good to see Bosun Lowell get a good amount of game time yesterday. However, they played him as a lone striker, which is not his position. Hopefully, Heimer can call him up in June, as he would add real physicality and athleticism to that Ireland midfield, which is severely lacking. Keep up the good work.
Cheers, Kieran. Did
There
you call
you
him
go.
Kieran?
Kieran, did I? Kieran.
Well, it's Kieran. Look, the father on.
Oh, sorry. All right.
You're meant to be Irish.
Yep.
Do you not know Gaelic? But anyway, yeah, he's right there. But, we don't want him playing as a central striker. But I think it was just the game it was and the way it ended up being, just giving him minutes. But yeah, I think we should be calling up because he's different class.
Right. Okay. And we've got a comment from Kevin Gerard. Call us. Did Marc Canham make many changes beyond the attempt to introduce the pathway? I remember Nick talking a good bit about the contribution of Rude Doctor, but couldn't really say what Canham has done. And then he's also said what happened to Nick. Nick is still doing the Green Machine, and he's one of our writers on our Lansdowne ROAR.ie. Check out the articles there. So yeah, still very much involved with it and following Irish football, and we wish him the best, of course. And yeah, Nick was. I remember that we were chatting about Rude Doctor and yeah, all those kind of what the kind of changes that he wanted to implement as well. But like we've gone through it like with different people involved.
The thing is, Canham's whole legacy is this past his plan, because in fairness, so much work has gone into it. Much work has gone into it that it's probably the most one person has put into changing Irish football. Like the whole thing is completely getting revamped. So I think his kind of thing is like, things we can't even judge it yet because it's not either been put in place or a lot of the funds haven't been there or it hasn't been the real change, because the change really hasn't happened yet. Because even the third tier that I know it's technically League of Ireland and his is general, just Irish football, but you'd hope that he was probably part of that, which I think is a positive step in the right direction of having a third tier. But yeah, I think it's just, unfortunately at the moment his legacy is the whole managerial farce. But I think the pathways thing would maybe, if it comes out in 5 or 10 years time and these academies are all booming, clubs are making money selling players right and left, and the League of Ireland, I think he will deserve some praise for that. But it's probably too early to tell yet, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then we have Martin Fitzpatrick. Hope you're well, Martin. Bose came back from the dead for Easter. Very good.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember? Do you know what happened?
Yeah, they won 3-2, didn't they, last minute?
In what context? What happened?
What?
Do you remember? Did you watch the game? Did you watch the game?
No.
They were 2-0 down until the 70th minute, and then they scored 3 goals at Tala. What a game. Yeah. Unbelievable. Good to see a young Reece Brennan actually get the winner as well. It's always good to see a 18-year-old come off the bench, and he was superb when he came on and then got the winner.
And I checked as well, like Dawson DeVoy scored, didn't he? I mean, that for me shows a little bit of, because he had a go, didn't he? He moved over to England, and then it obviously didn't work out. But, the League of Ireland is a very, very strong league, and you can go back there and have that experience, and it will bring a lot to you as well, your game. Yeah, look, doing well.
People are just, Bros have improved over the last couple of weeks. And a lot of lads, in fairness, are just happy you're living at home and makes such a difference to your football when you're happy living at home. And people talk about, they can't make a thing. It's just like lads they're from England. It's a lot easier for them to live in England and play in England because the culture, as much as it is quite similar in some contexts, but it is when you're away from family and stuff. Some lads can't. It's tough on lads. No, it's good to see so much talent in the league at the moment.
Yeah. And then we've got Dean Flood. Feel like it wasn't even that long ago he was promoted.
This is Canham, I think he's on about from Chief Football.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, self-promoted in a way. We chatted about this earlier. Who were some of the replacements for Canham? And if the candidate does well, what could that mean for Irish football? Well, I think if a candidate does well, it means we're in a good place. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We've got to get investment into football. We've got to get sponsorship. We've got to have interest in it. We've got to have people playing, kids playing, good facilities, and everything like that in Ireland. And look, I know how big England is, and we're even like grassroots level and things like that. But when I go back to Ireland and I see some of the facilities and playing surfaces and clubs around, like even rural Kilkenny, where my family's from, and you see likes of Evergreen and Thomastown United and stuff, like it's it is a really good level, to be fair, what I've seen. And you know, I'm comparing it probably to kind of a City, North London, and you know, damaged goals and litter all over the pitches and dog shit and stuff like that. It's crazy, like some of the playing surfaces where Irish football is. So you know, and that's in a, you know, football, you know, is the number one sport in England without a doubt. So you haven't got all the challenges of. I mean, I could go off on a big rant on this, Connor, but you know, I'm a big believer that the GAA, you know, my family's involved in GAA in Ballyhale, and I'm saying, oh, you know, all their investment and, you know, one of the best club teams in Kilkenny and in Ireland at hurling, and their facilities are brilliant and what they're invested into it. But I'm saying, is that a multi-sports venue then? You know, because are you going to welcome football in there or soccer in there? So, because that's what you do need, and I think you just got to embrace and encourage kids to be playing young. Yes. Stuff. You were out training tonight, weren't you? That actually terrified me, that photo you sent me.
Yeah, it was a Gaelic train tonight, and it's even an example of our club. Like, where I think if you look up T Holland on Google, the fourth smallest parish in Ireland, size wise. It's not. I'd say it wouldn't be population wise. It would definitely not be fourth smallest, but in terms of size, the fourth smallest in Ireland, just outside Monaghan. And like, we have two lovely pitches. We have the main pitch and we have a training pitch, and recently spent, I think, nearly 100 grand on a club gym. Obviously, a lot of it came from members' money and people putting money towards it and sponsorship. But
that's what you do not have here.
That's the comparison. Like, and like the gym we have is a lot better than, I would say, arguably could be probably as good as probably any League of Ireland club has itself. Like, so it's hard to compete in that context, especially when local people are so much more invested in their GA club. But that's the reality when it's a national sport in the country. But but it's hard to compete. But you just hope that one day maybe even the League of Ireland clubs have the facilities to compete with the very best, or like even have a stage where their academy players are having not stuff like that's not holding them back.
Well, I went to Boreham Wood Stadium the other day, and it might be familiar to some people who watch like the women's Premier League over here, where Arsenal sometimes play there, and
Spurs under 21s play there as well. As a Spurs or Chelsea under 21s play there as well.
Spurs play at Leyton Orient, don't they? I think.
No, they don't. Not Leyton Orient. I think it's Boreham Wood. I'll check it. Leyton Orient's too big of a stadium. You wouldn't have a League One club.
Oh, the women play Leyton Orient then, is it? Yeah, women Tottenham, I think. But like I know I've spoken about Enfield Town on this, so this would be so I can't equate it to a team in Ireland, because I don't know enough about the League of Ireland, to be honest, and non-league conference. What level would that be?
What'd you say? Non-league conference?
What would be the conference be here in England comparable to Ireland?
Probably you'd say Leinster Senior League, Munster Senior League, Ulster Senior League, stuff like that. Yeah.
So that's the level. But so you've got Boreham Wood playing at their stadium, which has got sprinklers on the pitch because Arsenal play there. Arsenal women, and the money that they pumped into it is incredible, like surface and everything. And those lads are full-time pros, so you know, it's absolutely incredible. And that brings me on to a nice timely comment about Cian Dillon, who's obviously on loan at Enfield Town at the moment, but this is from Deck Finnegan, a good friend of mine. Hope you're well, Deck. And he's a big QPR fan of the Irish R's, and hope many of them are listening. But he said, make sure Cian Dillon doesn't get injured at the weekend. He's due to play for QPR development squad in their Premier League Cup semi-final against Burnley next Wednesday. So scored a couple of goals from recently as well. So I am probably going to see if I can get down to Enfield Town's training, because it's obviously their last one of the season. It won't be behind closed doors or anything like that. It'll be on the same training pitch that we kick around on after we've kicked a load of young hooligans off it around Enfield, and see if I can catch up with Cian Dillon actually. But wish the lads the best of luck for the weekend. But yeah, hopefully Deck, he does the business for you as well. I was really impressed. I mean, when you were talking about the strikers there and their type of them, and I know I spoke about him earlier, I was just impressed with his hold-up play, like, because he was winning free kicks and challenges that he had no right to win. Incredibly brave is what I would say he was the other day. So and he has got a goal credited to him for Enfield. So he had one went behind the line and was handballed, and we didn't get a penalty. So he's been playing quite well for us, and he's got a lovely kind of technique of opening up and then curling shots around. It's really, really good the other day. Dean Flood saw people saying Jerry O'Neill for St. Pat's would be a good choice. That's to replace Marc Canham. This is Baylor then. a very rare message for me without mentioning Didsy. Martin, what do you think about the Bows game? Yeah, we just had a chat about that, but more impressed was I with James McManus's 85th minute winner the game before. Obviously a member of our supporters club, and I don't know what that one's about.
Which one?
The Irish player looks like a swastika in that photo. I don't know what photo he's on about.
This one?
Was it
This one?
No, I don't know.
Oh, it is.
Ah,
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
All right. It does actually. Jesus. Oh my God.
Swiftly move on from that.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. I was thinking, God, I thought you were the nutter of the show this evening. I was thinking, what's he going on about? Harrison Dalglish. Yeah, we've spoke about this one earlier. How Evan Ferguson linked with a permanent move to Leeds? What would you think? Perhaps it wouldn't be the most glamorous move, although maybe he can have a season similar to Delap at Ipswich.
Brandy.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
I've seen Delap playing. One thing I would say about some of these players as well, Ferguson, I think again, these teams I went to Tottenham against Nottingham Forest last night, and the build up sometimes is so slow, and Tottenham were excellent. I mean, Ange, I couldn't believe his press conference after saying how well they played. Now they were good at times, but then the things that were working for them, they just stopped doing. So, and to be fair, tactically, Forest managed the game really, really well. But I think sometimes somebody like it annoyed me watching modern football at the highest level, where when I went to watch Ipswich against Arsenal at the Emirates, and obviously looking forward to seeing Sammy Schmodix play again and seeing what he was doing at club level. But Delap just he was just non-existent that day. Now I know against Arsenal you're not going to get much of a kick, but even the whole thing of the build-up, every time they won the ball, they just went back Ipswich to reset and then try and break down Arsenal, which you're never going to do.
He's a very rough and tumble. He's a very rough and tumble type striker. The reality is, I remember because I used to live with people that were Hull City fans, and he was on loan at Hull City a season ago or a season and a half ago at the stage, and it was himself and Aaron Connolly and Philogene was the front three. Philogene was probably the best player in the championship at the stage. Connolly was the number 9, and Delap was playing on the right because Connolly was seen as the better number 9 option at that stage. And suddenly, obviously, a lot has changed since. But Delap's biggest strengths really are just taking men on or running with the ball. People, obviously, it's a massive thing to have, and it's such a positive. But it's not like he's a finesse type. His whole up play is elite or link up play. He's been dropped the last 2 games for Ipswich, if anyone's noticed, for George Hurst, who is, he's decent, but he's not. I don't think he's a Premier League striker. But yeah, I don't know why we're talking. I don't know why we went up on Delap, but
well, he's been linked with everyone though, isn't he? Because of this
30 million
buyout clause. And that's worth anyone probably having.
And so, Martin, comments come up at the top actually for at the Twitter one must be they will come up at the top. Donny Nagel. By Jack is at the very top. By Jack Henry Francis making his debut, hopefully tonight. You'd hope so. You'd really hope so because I think he's an absolutely brilliant player. I think he's top class. Last season at Sligo he was so good. I thought the last month and a half season, I thought he was the best player in the league. He's excellent midfielder, and it'd be great to see him finally make his debut.
Right, we'll be following that, of course, as well. And we did say earlier, I thought the swastika comment was, some random nut job on YouTube watching the show for some reason. But we have had the random one come in now. Here we go. A guy called David Dunn. He says he would be fabulous as the replacement of Marc Canham. So outstanding pedigree and a World Cup winner in FIFA 98. So well done to you, David Dunn. And I hope you're well. And maybe give yourself a day off and tell everybody about it.
Tell everyone that you're taking a day off and that Prendy has to do a live on Tuesday. Go on, tell everyone that. Go on, tell everyone that.
Jesus, I've never heard anything like it.
World Cup in FIFA 98,
Yeah. We have Ferris
IRE is short for Ireland.
IRE. Yeah, I know that. Jesus. Can you ask Conor
Dave didn't know that SZN was short for season.
Season, yeah. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't.
Because okay. Can you ask Conor what aftershave he uses?
Jack, I use Millionaire by Paco Rabanne. Would be a personal favorite of mine.
Sponsored. If they'd like to sponsor him,
So I wouldn't mind them sponsoring us now.
Post GAA training.
Yeah, they need an Irishman, bringing in a bit of Irishman to it.
Right. This is from Harrison again, Daglish. It would be viewed as an underwhelming fall from grace sort of move, although maybe what he needs is to be the main man. This is about Evan Ferguson starting every game he's available for and having a system built around him. That's what's kind of linking him to going to suggesting maybe he can go to Leeds.
That isn't bad logic.
Ferguson will not get this on loan. He needs to either play for Brighton or leave on a permanent move. No loans. And then just another comment there was when we were talking about the speculation linking Nathan Collins to that he's on the radar of Arsenal. Nick has said if Saliba leaves, sure, but don't want him sitting on the bench. And yeah, I think that's very important that we need these lads to be playing now. You know, like we're very blessed at centre back or defensively, I suppose. Jacob Bryan showing his versatility, Darrow Shea, Andrew Mbamadelli as well, and Mark McGuinness. Let's not forget that he started in Wembley against England and did quite well as well. So Liam Scales back in contention now.
What's the name of centre back at Watford?
Abankwah.
Oh, good to see you pronounce it right.
Jesus.
I'm trying to see if you do a Dave on it.
Oh, Jesus. Well, he can't even pronounce his own name half the time. And then says other links to players who perhaps Evan Ferguson, I believe it.
No way.
Collins, is it? Collins.
Collins.
So could go to Newcastle. Not a bad shout. That isn't a bad shout. They're doing very
Fabian
well.
Scher's getting old.
About Villa? No? Villa be a good move?
Yeah, Villa maybe.
You know, teams who, you know, I think for him though, if clubs came calling who were in Champions League, surely he's got to be,
or even Europa League,
yeah, got to be. What are we playing in Europe anyway? Because I was just, that's where he's got to set the target, I suppose. Obviously Bayern Munich as well, link there, and he's better than Eric Dyer according to Nick. Then we have Harrison Deglish as well, just saying Ferguson could also get a cheap relegation clause in his contract if he goes to Leeds, similarly to Delap, who can leave for 30 million. And I think this is a very good point, actually, because I read this one earlier. This David McGuinness. Hope you're well, David, a good supporter of the show. Ferguson's issues is his representation. His dad and uncle are managing his affairs, and they clearly aren't able to orchestrate a loan move that guarantees first-team football with regular starts and minutes. The West Ham move has been pointless, and he needs a good, proper representation to manage his career. His family, while no doubt well-meaning, aren't delivering for him. He needs proper professional sports representation to deliver what he needs. A good move, and he needs to stay in the Prem.
Who's his uncle? Because all I know is that his agent is Davy Berber, who's an agent.
I don't know who his uncle is.
I don't know. I think you might be getting confused there, David. I'd imagine obviously his family will have a big say with every footballer, but I don't think his uncle, whoever his uncle is involved. Okay. Mr. Ferguson.
Well, let us know, David, if you're still watching.
Yeah, if you can enlighten us with that. But good to see David on. I haven't seen him in a while. So good to see him on.
Yep. And Devonshire, if you fancy David, we have promised each other that we'd have a pint down there.
And Stephen Kenny be there as well if you'd like to join.
Listen. Right, Phil Cousins. It was reported by L'Equipe today that Strasbourg have had conversations with Omar Mbamadelli regarding an option to buy. They say no guarantee he will remain at Strasbourg due to injuries and big salary. Anything of that?
Well, no, I know there is an option to buy in the clause, but I didn't know about the report in L'Equipe today, which I'd say it is quite true because I'd imagine they wouldn't mind paying the big salary if he stayed injury free. But the problem is he's been quite injury prone. Maybe if he keeps playing very well and then doesn't get injured between now and the end of the season, you'd hope that they'll do that, and especially if they're in the Champions League, which gives them more money to spend.
Okay, we are going to keep wrapping up your comments now, and thank you again for your input this evening. Make sure you have subscribed as well if you're listening or watching the show this evening, and make sure you give Connor a follow at Rep Tracker, and also me at PrenDM and at LROAR_pod as well. And I'm going to do something now a little bit off topic. Some people often talk about my background scenario here of a shirt collection that I have and things like that. And this shirt here, I'm going to point it out now.
Here,
I mentioned the Devonshire, and it reminded me of this. And it was given to me by a very good friend of mine, Noel McNamee, who if anyone follows me on socials, they say I'm always talking about him, a musician, who fantastically talented musician and been in lots of films as well. But this shirt, you can't really see it. I'll just see if I can drag it close. You won't see many of these. That's just by pan. I've just knocked over one of my flasks, which are also available. The Ireland badge is a bit shite. But basically, this is from the Keane McCarthy film, which is coming out in the summer. You cannot get that shirt anywhere yet, but it was given to me as well, it wasn't given to me, it was given to my son Keane by Niall McNamee, who's in the film playing Alan Kelly. So I'll give him a shout out for that. We're going to get Niall on the podcast again soon, actually, to tell us about the film, obviously, because starring Steve Coogan as Mick McCarthy. So it's going to be very, very interesting, that. And yeah, he gave me a shirt. It's pretty cool. And the reason why the shitty kind of Umbro design, where it says sideband underneath, is because Umbro wouldn't let them have the badge correctly for the shirts they wore. And also the Ireland badge is really, really poor as well, because the FAI wouldn't let them use that. So that's obviously something coming out in the summer. So I want to wish Niall all the best as well. Saw him on Sunday for a few pints and doing very well. We've got an album coming out this year, so really, really good. But I just thought I'd show that one out there because there won't be many of them at the moment out there. And he also plays in the Devonshire. That's where I'm going to meet our good friend Dave McGuinness for a pint. So where were we? Baylor digging Callum O'Dowda out. He's playing great. Can't wait to see him in the next squad. Talking about that, we were saying, will he be in the next squad if he goes down with Cardiff? We've got a comment from Nick here. Millie Ali is class.
He is. It'd be good to see him involved in June.
And Chris Mulhall, will Josh Honohan make the next Ireland squad, do you think?
He's a very good chance. He was excellent the other day, hit the post with a brilliant strike. Or is Dave is suddenly calling him Joshua Honohan, which I've never. I imagine it must be his government name, as I like to say. What's your government name? But he must have read it online as Joshua Honohan. But no, he has a good chance. In fairness, he's doing well, especially when Captain Cod is getting relegated. Great option to have at left back.
Okay, and hang on, we've got a left back. We have a left back. There's Nick. O'Dowda is Cardiff's best player by a mile. He'll definitely get a move. There's your left back. David H. Delighted Canham is gone. I hope the FAI are making a move to get Niall Mooney. He's doing a good job with the Welsh FA. We've had a few comments like this, actually. And yeah, very interesting. Jim Bear joins in a little bit later saying Niall Mooney means that's who he means there. CEO of Wales would have been a great choice. Bottom line, Irish need to start qualifying for tournaments to have cash for the top staff and for recruitment. Rice would have played in the 2018 World Cup. Oh, Declan Rice. But yeah, just on Niall Mooney, yeah, doing a fantastic job with the Welsh FA, of course. Really engaged fantastically well with probably embracing the kind of culture of Wales, even changing the name to Cymru, and really, really good job there. And obviously part of that bid for the Euro 2028. So yeah, but that is a CEO. That's not a director of football. And that's what I think a few people are getting a bit confused by Marc Canham and what he did, because maybe they are seeing him as the kind of figurehead of the association. And maybe we do need to hear from David Carell a little bit more on that, or some football.
I think the most likely thing. I think the most likely thing is that Shane Robinson will probably be put as interim CFO, and then it was given the job on a full-time basis, which seems to be a common thing in FAI. I don't know whether it's. I'd say it just gives you a chance to prove yourself, as we've seen with Eileen Gleeson and with David Carell, obviously, as well. What we've seen with John O'Shea, but it didn't go to plan with him as interim manager. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen.
Yeah. And I mean, we're even seeing, did you mention Conor Horahan getting the Barnsley job?
Yeah, we did. We did the other day.
Yeah, just keeping in the toes. Patrick Lahan, hear me out. Ferguson will be better than Haaland, according to him. So that's a good vote.
Already is better. Not he will be. Already is better.
Yeah. And Grego Lockie, I would vote for Connor if he scraps the player pathway plan. So a few people are against that, of course. Nick follows up as well with just on his O'Dowda comment that he's his best player by their best player by a mile, but Cardiff are shite. Question for Connor about Mr. O'Neill.
What's 10 in Irish?
Do you know what I know?
You're meant to be Irish.
I was brought up in London because of family forced over here, sadly. How'd you say? How'd you say that?
I think it's Cadoc.
Cadoc.
I think it's Cadoc.
Right.
10 in Irish is Cade, and that's the first bit of
Yeah.
Cadoc. But I'd imagine
seen that name.
it's
I don't think I've
a
seen that
very
name.
unique. It's a very unique name.
Nice name. I like it. Do you think the chance to play at a World Cup later this year could lure him to play with us?
I'd like to think so, because if you're not aware, Martin, he is plays for Arsenal. Signed his first pro contract last week or the week before. He's from Derry. Obviously, he's a very Irish name from a GA background. I think he's very famous uncles in the Derry GA background. He played for Linfield though, which is quite interesting. But he's a Derry fan, I think, and he looks, and I imagine he's a very proud Irishman. But he came through that JD academy that they have in Belfast, which is a big thing if a lad's playing in the North for full-time football at that age. I'd like to think so, because he's a very good player, and I'd imagine when there's a lad from Derry, when Ireland come calling, especially when he's living in England now, so he's away from any sort of backlash he can really get. But it would be great to see him come on board. You think a World Cup would try and lure a type of lad like that? I don't know whether the FAI will be pursuing it yet or not, but I don't know if that's too soon, because you don't know what his long-term development is, because if he switched now, he can't switch back because he'd be capped in competitive games for Northern Ireland and Ireland. But I do think he's one there should be a bit of work put in to try and get him in, because he's doing well at Arsenal and he is a very good player.
Okay, try and find out a bit more of him. And here's Nick. The Laps link-up play is quite poor. It might turn off the big clubs. Yeah, that's my view of him when I saw him against Arsenal. But, I'm going to give him the benefit and see a bit more. But 30 million this day and age,
he's probably worth spending 30 million. Probably worth that gamble.
Yeah. And good for him in a way, that contract. I mean, we're talking about like the situation of Evan Ferguson and contractually a poor move, or the loan move wasn't great. Look, he's going to be on good money, of course, but to be on a contract where you're a 30 million pound player, relegation clause, and you can move, and then obviously wages, then like he must have a good agent to that. Just throwing that out there, like his dad used to. But
I wonder, can he take long throws? Because we've never seen it, but I wonder, does he?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Have you seen Rocco Vata? Have you seen Rocco Vata's long throw-ins?
No, is that good?
He takes it's class. He takes long throw-ins for Watford. Anytime the ball's near the sideline or near the box, he throws it in the box to him. I didn't know he had it in his locker, but he seems to have it all.
I hope Ireland know that he's got it in his locker. Jesus.
With the size we've got, yeah, you think it'd be a good way of scoring goals.
And we're just getting a few messages there from someone. Baylor, 20 goal contributions at the age of 37. Get him in that Cardiff team to play him at left wing ahead of that Joker. And that's in response to Didsey, of course.
Did you see Didsey's goal last week against Bradford City?
Yeah. I love Didsey.
He has to be. Yeah, I seen a tweet. I seen someone. There was a tweet out. It was like of Messi, and it's like it was like clips of him at Miami, and it's like, have we ever seen a better 37-year-old before? And someone quote tweeted, it was like, "Fuck off, mate! You've never seen David McGoldrick play." He's actually unbelievable. Crazy. He's so good.
Yeah. So is David done again? Just saying. I'm live, Martin. You're live on Tuesday. Yeah, I do send messages within our group, within 1,000 messages a day. I just send what I'm doing and I'm available. Yep, I confirm, and that's it. So look, Irish Football Media. Nathan Collins to Atletico Madrid.
Wouldn't be against that now.
I am listening. You pair of the bankers, said Dave.
Strange thing to say,
And here we go. Dave McGuinness. Stephen Kenny won't get past the door of the dev, I assure you. Let's chalk down that pint. Yep, we're agreeing dates here. It's fantastic. Joshua. I don't know what he's on about. And then we have a little bit of a correction on the Irish language. Cade is actually 100 as Gaelic.
That's good.
Lad, a Gaeliga. Lad, haha. Daish, is it Daish? Is 10.
That's That's
And
perfect.
then
That's shocking. I got
and
a H2
then
and leaving certain that, and I can't even know what
yeah.
100 is.
Anyway, you can catch
Except
Rep
for a
Tracker
day, by the way.
on. You can catch him on Rep Tracker as well, and also see him in the Irish Times.
Speaking of Gaelic.
And where you going? Yeah, going after the Gaeltacht in for summer school. We've also got Nick here. Alan Sheehan doing a great job at Swansea. Should hopefully get the permanent job.
He's doing a brilliant job, actually. By the way,
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned that at all, but he's doing a great job with them.
Yeah, really good. So thank you for your interaction tonight, everybody. Really do appreciate it. We nearly got 2,000 there watching this evening. So fantastic support. Fair play.
Leave a like if you leave a like
if you
enjoyed not having Dave on talking nonsense, and subscribe because we're sick of Dave and it's always better without him.
It is, yeah. And no, I do appreciate your support tonight, everyone, for watching. It's good to be back as well. Love chatting to you all on the show and following, of course, Rep Tracker to find out how the lads get on. I mean, look, I know time constraints stop everybody from kind of following Irish football, but I can't emphasize enough how I follow Connor because it just keeps me updated. So do follow him because you can just dip in and find out how the lads are going. And we will not banish Connor off to Connemara yet. So, he's doing all right for us. And do appreciate all of the views this evening. Be sure to tell everybody about the show. Make sure if you haven't already subscribed that you do so. Don't watch us illegally. Just click that subscribe button, click the like, send it to your friends as well. This will be available on a podcast after as well for the audio version. So thanks for listening to that. If you are supporting the show, do go on Spotify and leave us reviews as well, because it does all help these algorithms. I'm speaking now about something I don't really understand, but it does help us get more and more content out there to you. And we've got some brilliant plans. Want to thank Dave as well for his fantastic.
It's every J, Dave.
Fantastic input this evening, Dave. I hope he's enjoyed his day off because it was a long time coming. And
he has. He told us.
And a momentous day in Irish football with Marc Canham leaving. So we do thank you for your input as well on that.
What's bigger news? Celebrating his day off from Marc Canham leaving.
Yeah, even. And I just want to follow up as well with just wishing Enfield Town and Cian Dillon all the best now coming up to this weekend. Big weekend.
Will you be on the stream this weekend, Martin? That's all what we want to know.
Where am I Sunday? I might be. I should be. I think so. It depends how obviously Saturday goes because if Enfield stay up, we'll be on the pitch. And actually, I will post on our Lansdowne ROAR Twitter account. I was interviewed before the Enfield Town game by a Newcastle fan who goes to games, and he went and watched Enfield Town, and he interviewed me 4 minutes in, I think it is, chatting about Enfield Town. And he's
and by the way, there will be a League of Ireland show tomorrow, I hope. Dave, as you said, Dave, you're recording a League of Ireland show, whether you like it or not, tomorrow, which will be out either tomorrow or Thursday, and hopefully we'll have another video by the end of the week as well. I'll make sure that these two plonkers come on a video to do any whether it's a roundup or something happens or it's just a bit of crack video, but there'll be more content out this week, hopefully 2 more.
We will be doing it.
Stream.
Yeah, we will get content out to you. Do follow and subscribe us on all our channels. Check out lansdowneroar.ie as well, just for all the latest articles on Irish football as well from the lads. Fantastic group of writers. And if you do want to get involved in the podcast or writing for us as well, just drop us a DM and all our socials and we'll get back to you. Connor's in charge of that. And if you use Google Translate and put it into Gaelic, is it? We'll be sure to translate it back so he can understand it, because it might confuse him a little bit.
And if you have any sponsors, bring me right now. Martin, yeah. Sponsors. We want someone putting the back on that jersey.
We do.
He'll insert a sponsor on that jersey in the back.
That's the one. That's very rare. That I'm quite happy with it. I've actually got a few shirts coming, so I'm quite happy. Right, that's us over and out. Thanks for your support this evening. All the best for the weekend. Coming up to Irish players, of course. And we will get more content out to you. And thanks for subscribing to the show and listening this evening. Thanks for all your comments as well. And thanks, Connor, for joining me this evening. It's been good fun. All right, over and out. We'll see you soon. Good night and God bless.